All right. Oh, not ending. Quick stream. Good evening. Bit all over the place today. So last session I finished the React fundamentals, which was cool. Got a certificate and all, so it's legit. And I'm going to start this week with the React hooks module, which is the next one in the series. Let's see. We got. So welcome from Ken, and then some useState. To useState. I powered through. First session I managed to get through about half of this, so I wonder I'll maybe try and reach hooks flow tonight. I've noticed there's a talk at the beginning of this, which I may actually watch, and then get started with the code examples. So, where is Ken? There's Ken. Alright, I'm going to watch this video. Unfortunately, I can't share it, so if you want to watch it, you need to go to EpicReact.Dev, buy the course. He's always so positive. It's like the polar opposite to me. Cool. So I'm actually going to go back here. The prerequisite for the course is watching this talk on why React hooks, which I should have loaded up here. That's cool. I'm actually going to watch this. I generally watch things on 1.5 speed, so that's on 1.25. Is it like a 35-minute course? Should be like 20 minutes or so. But I should be able to turn this off, and then should be able to unmute this actually. So just gonna link this. Cool. I'm going to watch the video.
Ready? Yeah, this is a friendly crowd. That's nice. So my name is Kent C. Dodds, and I am going to be talking about a really awesome new feature coming to React. I titled this talk React: The Future is Now because I kind of assumed that this feature would be available by now, but it's actually not. It's still in alpha. So the future is still in the future. But it will be available soon, and it's going to just be amazing. So before we get into things, I'll just introduce myself really quick. So I'm Kent C. Dodds. I live here. I'm local in Utah. I live in Pleasant Grove. I have a wife, a daughter, and 3 boys. My daughter is 6. So I don't know why we got a dog, but we did with all of that craziness. I work for PayPal, and I'm Kent C. Dodds anywhere on the web. I did want to talk about my testing JavaScript course. If you want to get into testing in JavaScript, this is the biggest resource on the web. It is awesome. I'm also on Egghead and Front-End Masters. I should have had you guess what that was, because like the karate thing, master, right? Emojis are hard. I have a newsletter you can check out, and my newsletter is weekly. That feeds into my blog. 2 weeks later, my newsletter goes to my blog. Really great stuff. How many people are subscribed, actually? Anybody subscribed? Hey, cool. Hey, friends. Is it good? Thumbs up? You're still subscribed, so that's good. And then I have a YouTube channel where I actually live stream daily for anywhere from like 10 minutes to an hour and a half, depending on what I'm working on. Just about random little things that people are asking me about all the time. There's another thing that I have here. Let's do question mark. kcd.im/AMA. So I haven't asked me anything. I've answered over like 400 questions now on GitHub. And so if you have a question about like how do you do this or whatever, I probably answered that already. But if I haven't, you can go ask me on there. And I try to answer relatively quickly. I'm trying to use my IDE as a presentation tool. This is the first time I've done this. I've live coded a lot for my talks and stuff, but I've never actually used code as my slides, which is kind of interesting. So we'll see how this goes. Okay, so I'm supposed to thank our sponsors, which I don't have any problem doing. They're great. This thing is rocking, sorry. So yeah, thank you to all of these sponsors who've made this conference possible and enabled all of you to come here and learn, and me to come here and learn also. Before we get too much into things though, I'd like to invite everybody to please stand up. You can step to the side or something. We're going to be doing this thing called exercise. So put your arms out in front of you like this. Squat down. Come back up. This is an air squat. Your legs are like, what just happened? Okay, we're going to do 12 of these together. Count with me. Ready? 1, 2, not louder. 3, 4. Hey, chance. Wow, man. All right, 6, 7, 8. You're doing great. 9. This is so fun. I'm going to start over at 1. No, just kidding. 11 and 12. Awesome. Stretch over your head as high as you can. And then stretch over to one side. Over to the other. Awesome, that feels great. Now, before you sit down, turn to the person next to you and thank them for coming to the conference, and then sit down. All right, good. So I've actually, it just occurred to me I should do that at the end because you're all smiling. It'd be great to have everybody smiling as they're leaving my talk. It's like, what did you talk about? Yeah, exercise. Yeah, so being physically fit makes our brains more ready to learn, and so that's one of the reasons I do that. Okay, I also like to set up expectations for my talks. So this talk is kind of an introduction to hooks. It's also like React hooks. How many of you know what I'm talking about when I say React hooks? Okay, cool. So how many of you write React every day for your work? Okay, how many of you have written a line of React in your life? Okay, cool. So this is going to be an intro to a lot of things for some of you, which is great. I'm happy to have you here. Okay, so I'm going to be doing some live coding. I'm going to show you some code examples, and we are going to be talking about some problems in React today, and how this new feature that's coming to React is going to alleviate a bunch of those problems. And as I say, React hooks allows me to say goodbye to things in React that I didn't think could be improved. So I already thought React was super, super awesome. These features make React just that much cooler to me. I'm not mandating that you rewrite your apps. In fact, React is all about incremental adoption and a nice upgrade path for you. React has actually been rewritten. The framework itself has been rewritten. That was released in React 16. But people didn't really have to make a whole bunch of changes. So it's not like a total framework rewrite and API change and everything. This is an opt-in, a new API that you can opt into with your new code. And it's totally up to you if you want to use it. But after you've tried it, you never want to do anything else because it's so much better. Also, this is not production code because technically this is all alpha stuff still. If we look in our package.json here, we're going to see React alpha, alpha, alpha. So it's still technically not available officially yet, but hopefully it will be soon. Okay, sure, save that. So we're on 5. So the premise of my talk is, what makes React so hard? Like, I like to start with why. This is why React hooks, this new feature is coming around, is because there are some things about React that are hard. So I teach React a lot. I teach React, I teach testing, I teach JavaScript. And whenever I teach React to beginners, by far, the biggest struggle that people have is not with React itself, but with JavaScript. Because React itself is actually pretty small and simple, and JavaScript is a little bit more on the complicated side, at least the APIs that React has you use. Another thing that people struggle with a little bit are life cycles. We're going to take a look at that. And then logic reuse. I have an entire course on ag.io all about patterns in React that enable flexibility and reuse of components and reuse of logic in your React components. And what React Hooks does is lots of those patterns aren't really necessary anymore because the Hooks API is just so good. It makes logic reuse just so much easier. So let's talk about each one of these a little bit further with some examples. So I want you to look at this, and those of you veterans out there in React, can you find the bug? What is the bug in this counter component? The longer it takes, the more you prove my point, so that's great. So I'll tell you the bug. What's going to happen is when we run this line of code, this .setState is not defined. Anybody know why? So the reason is that we're passing this function to onClick, and then React is going to say, oh, okay, call that onClick function. But it's not calling it with the right thing on the left side of the dot, which is what determines what this is. And so because of that fact, this will not be defined, and this will blow up. So the solution to this is if you don't want to use non-standard syntax, then you have to do this. This.increment equals this.bind, or this.increment .bind this. That's what you have to do. So that you force this to be the instance of your component, right? And that's super annoying to write, especially if you have like a bunch of these handlers. You're going to wind up with a lot of this, right? How many people have this in their code? Yeah, okay, so you know what I'm talking about. And so luckily for us, there's a new feature coming out that allows you to do that, where that's called a class field, and it is effectively, it's doing this. Those are functionally equivalent. So it's just syntax sugar for that, which means you can actually also do this, move that out, and then we can get rid of that constructor. Okay, so it's cool. It's a cool new feature, but it's not standard yet. And so some people, like, you have to have a Babel plugin installed. Luckily, that's in Create React app already. So if you're using this, you can do that. So yeah, that's like super not fun to have to understand the intricacies of classes and this. And I kid you not, when I'm teaching React, I spend a huge amount of my time teaching about classes and how this works in JavaScript, not teaching about React. That's kind of frustrating to me as an instructor because people think, wow, React sure is complicated. Well, no, it's not. It's JavaScript and classes. So I never was really happy with that. So I'm actually pulling your leg a little bit. There's actually 2 bugs in here. And I would be surprised if anybody can find the second bug. So the second bug is, and not many people know this, but here you have your constructor. This constructor is actually going to take props, and it's going to take this thing called an updater, which actually I don't even know what that does. But when you call super, you're supposed to call it with those same things, because what super is going to do is it's going to add props onto this. So when I call super without those props, this .props does not exist yet, because super is the one who's assigning props, but if you're not passing the props, then it's not going to have that. And so like the solution is you remove this and you just accept props, or what I do is I'll just spread the args. So I don't have to know like what arguments they are, just like pass them all to super. Okay, so that's another little like intricacy of classes in JavaScript that it's really easy to miss and it's kind of confusing. Luckily, we can kind of get away with that if we just use this syntax because this is the default constructor. If you don't have a constructor, that's what it is. But it's just a bunch of stuff that we have to learn about when we're really just trying to learn React. So that's JavaScript. That's like the biggest complications around learning React is actually learning JavaScript and classes in general. So that's problem number 1. So yeah, trick question. There were 2 bugs, not just this little guy, but also an ant. So let's talk about life cycles. So here we have this user context that presumably is going to hold the logged in user. We have this chat feed that's going to render a chat, and that chat is going to be based off of our geolocation. So here in a little bit, I'm going to show you this app where based off of your location, you can chat with anybody who is around you. And so if you're like in San Francisco, the chat will be totally different. It's kind of fun. I built it last night. So to accomplish this, we have to subscribe to the feed. Then we have to, one other thing is we have a document title that gets updated for the number of messages that you haven't read yet. So we have to set the document title, and we have to subscribe to online status so we can say, hey, you're online, you're offline. And then we have to subscribe to the geolocation to know as that is changing, we can make updates. So we change what chat room you're in at the time. And so that happens when the component is initially rendered after it's rendered on component did mount. So then we have to clean those things up because we don't want memory leaks, right? So on component will unmount, we have to unsubscribe from all those things. So we're going to do the opposite. Basically, this code is like, do this thing and then do the opposite thing, right? And that's generally, that's really common. We have to do that a lot in React. And one thing, a source of a lot of bugs is forgetting component did update. So what if when my location changes, I need to actually unsubscribe from one feed and subscribe to a new one for that new location, right? And so I need to go ahead and compare props. Did my location change? Did my online status change? All of these different things we have to take into account. So every single time it updates, we basically have to run all of this again, or run all of that and then run all of this again, right? But only when certain things have changed. For performance, we don't want to just do that every single time it updates. That'd be kind of wild. So that's kind of annoying. And then we have to do our render. So the thing that I don't like about this is that And it's not like terrible. Like you can look at this and you can figure out what it's doing. And it's actually kind of a nice layer of abstraction. We put all this stuff in a component, and we can use that component anywhere. So like the React that we've always been using is still really awesome. It allows us to take this messy bit of code and put it into something, and then share that anywhere without that being a leaky abstraction around everything else. So it's not a bad thing. It's just this is not optimal. This isn't. I would like this to be a little bit easier. And one of the things that makes this most difficult for me is when I decide, okay, we don't need the document title thing anymore. So I have to go into here, and then into here, and then into here, and remove all the logic that revolves around the document title. Then there's probably also like some other state, or there's some other functions that this document title thing is calling. I have to go around a lot of different places to find out where this is. And then like let's say that this geolocation is kind of nice. I want to be able to extract that logic and put it into another component. How do we share that logic? Okay, so that's our next concern. So lifecycle is kind of arbitrarily splits up things that really should be co-located, right? Here we have one concern. The concern is subscribing and unsubscribing from the feed and keeping that subscription up to date. And we're spreading that concern across multiple lifecycles. So that's the problem. Now, if we want to share that or reuse that logic, you see this is a black box, right? Black box, I tried. So we have, we can do that. But the way that we've been able to share logic in React, it started with mix-ins. How many people were doing React when we had mix-ins? Literally no one? Wow, welcome to React, everybody. It's a brighter world. What about how many people have used a higher order component? Okay, so that kind of replaced mix-ins when we said, okay, React.create class, that's going to go into its own package. Now we're using classes, and all of a sudden we have to worry about this, but that's the way it was. So we did away with that, but now we lost mix-ins. So the community came up with this higher order components idea, where you can have a function that returns a component that will render your thing with the props necessary. We'll take a look at one of those in a little bit. That had a myriad of problems, and so the community moved over to render props. How many people have used render props before? Okay, so render props look like this. This was a great solution to our problem. I'm joking. This is awful. So render props, actually, they really are good. They allow some really powerful things. And if this is really annoying to us, we can extract that into another function, make a new component out of this, and then just render that one component. Then we kind of move this pyramid of doom over to a separate component that is just isolated from the rest of our presentation logic, which is fine. So I never really liked this, but I was okay with it because of what it allowed me to do, which is take this logic for subscribing to a feed and updating the document title and subscribing to the online status and the geolocation, separating those out and sharing that logic across multiple components that need that stuff. But aside from the pyramid of doom that we have here, we also have this kind of fake world of hierarchy. So does the online status really need to be below the subscribed to feed? Not really. I could put that above. Or the geolocation, do those need to be? No, they don't. They're just arbitrarily selected where these components are going to be rendered. Just because that's the way that a tree is structured, we have to have a parent and children, and we want to kind of compose these things together. And so we're throwing those things together. And I never really liked that a whole lot. So we have these three problems again. Actually, make sure. Oh yeah, LOL. No, I'm actually really sad. So this is what makes React so hard. Is we have to learn about JavaScript, about the intricacies of JavaScript classes specifically. Not that learning JavaScript is bad. In fact, it's one of the things I like most about React is that I spend most of my time, when I'm in React, I spend most of my time learning JavaScript and less of my time learning some domain-specific language or some APIs that I can't transfer to any other framework or work that I'm doing. So I spend a lot of time learning JavaScript with React, and I'm happy with that. But there are some things about JavaScript that are just really complicated, like the classes, like we talked about. And then life cycles. Arbitrarily splitting up the same concern across multiple life cycles can lead to complication. That's kind of frustrating and annoying. And then logic reuse. The patterns are great, but they have some significant trade-offs and downsides. If we could kind of get rid of that, those problems, this would be a great thing. And that's what React hooks is all about. So the rest of the time, which actually is only 9 minutes, I'm going to show you a demo. So I'd like you all to pull open your phone. We're going to go to gochat.netlify.com. I should have done Firebase, because this is like a Google conference, but my bad. So go-chat.netlify.com. And the first thing it's going to do is ask you for your location. I promise I'm not going to do anything nefarious with that, because I actually know where you are right now already. You're right there. Yeah. So yeah, when you've done that, go ahead and type in whatever you want to. I'm going to do Kent C. Dodds. Hey, we got T-Money. And then you can start sending messages. I accidentally sent a message with no content. My bad. Should have added some validation with that. So we're going to say, whoa, I'm going to get rid of all this stuff. There we go. Hey there. Yay. Okay, cool. So we're all chatting. So this is, and I can trust you all, right? You're not going to start swearing profanities and stuff, because that would ruin our experience here today. So this is neat. And actually, if you refresh, you'll see that your username is preserved, and your settings for allowing geolocation tracking is also preserved. So I won't ask you again. Message is spelled wrong. Oh. Wait. Message, spell, message. Message? What? I thought that was. I went through the whole code base and renamed it to message instead. Because I thought that was massage.
Massage is okay.
Oh,
It changes the thing.
I literally went and refactored everything because I was like, oh, I spelled it wrong. Oh man, how funny is that? Feel free to pull request this. This is open source. So if I refresh, then I'll see I have unread 22. So as I scroll up, that unread goes down, and I can see all those. I'm not storing that in local storage, so every time you refresh, it's gonna unread the ones that you haven't seen yet. And it also keeps track. Oh goodness, I gotta stop stepping on this. It also keeps track of your scroll position. So if you're scrolled to the bottom, it'll keep you scrolled at the bottom. But if you scroll up and people start chatting, then it'll leave you in place. Right? That's kind of a nice experience. So I have this implemented both in traditional React as well as React hooks. And we're gonna compare those. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. So if we go to our app here, I'm gonna drop that. Is that font size okay? I just dropped it. Okay, is that all right? Okay, so let's look at the old version first. So we have an app. It's a class component. And I decided to go with the monstrous single component. Like you have to decide, am I going to go with the monstrous single component or with all these like little components that I wind up having to do this pyramid of doom that I showed you before. I decided to go with the monstrous one, except for the geolocation. I'm using with geoposition from React functions, which is great, because using their render prompt version would have been a little harder. so we're getting the geoposition from our props, but everything else is we're subscribing to Firebase and tracking the like whether you're scrolled down to the bottom of the list or not. All of that stuff's happening right in the component. So let's look at some of the things that we're doing in here. So we have some state. We initialize this to local storage, so we can store your username. We have our messages. We have some, to do this unread, basically what I'm doing is I will track which nodes have been visible. And so then we'll keep track of those nodes, and then we can determine based off of how many you've seen versus how many messages they are. And then we keep track of the is stuck state. So all of these things, how many concerns are there? There's username, messages, seen nodes, and stuck. Those are four like pretty isolated concerns, but they're all living right next to each other. And they're not only are they living next to each other, they're also separated from the code that is relevant to them. And so, because of that fact, it makes it a little bit harder to change it, to delete it, and to share it, like to refactor to make it shareable. Okay, so we have the send message that's going to say, hey, Firebase, add a message with their location, username, and content. And then on component to mount, we need to track the visible children for the unread count, track the stuck to know whether you're down at the bottom, update the document title, and subscribe to Firebase. Here's the fun one. Component did update. We have to, every single time it updates, we'll just go and update, make sure we are tracking all the children who are visible. If it is stuck and the message length has changed, then we're going to make sure we stick the container, so we'll scroll you down automatically. We'll update the document title just in case something changed, and then if the latitude and longitude have changed, then we're going to unsubscribe from Firebase and then subscribe to the new Firebase chat room that you're going to be in based off of your changed location. This legitimately works. If you open up your developer tools or if you like walk a little ways away, then you can check out the sensors. And I'm going to go geolocation San Francisco. And now, look, I sent myself a message in San Francisco. Welcome to San Fran. So actually, that's kind of cool. So we'll come back to Utah for a sec. Okay, so we've got update document title. I'm not going to go too far into like the how to accomplish all these tasks. What's most important is to see that we have to do all these things. Let me just make sure I'm not missing anything. When the username changes, we'll update local storage. When the component unmounts, we want to make sure we unsubscribe from Firebase because we've navigated to a different page or something. The chat is no longer there. We don't need to have Firebase subscribed anymore. And we have event listeners that are on the document to track scrolling. We want to untrack that so we don't have that memory leak there either. And then here we have our render. And there's nothing really interesting about the render. Okay, so that is our old app. And it's not too bad. Like, how long is this? I turned off my lines, but I think it's like 150 lines of code or something like that. So it's not terrible. And it looks kind of nice, right? So let's take a look at the new app with the last 2 minutes I got. So with React hooks, things change quite a bit. We have no classes in this file. Class, nothing. Okay. So instead of using classes, we're going to use functions. And here, let me scroll down to our app. I'm going to actually move the app closer to the imports so we can see those together. So we have this function. If we want to be able to use state, we can just, from React, we say use state. And here's our messages state, so that's going to be an array. And then anywhere in this component, we don't need to access the messages off of this state.messages. This is literally just a variable that I have access to in my function. So we don't have to, there's actually no instance of this in here either. You don't deal with this, you don't deal with classes. You just deal with functions and closures, things that you need to know about in JavaScript already anyway. And it's a lot more straightforward. So then this use state, it actually returns an array. So if you're not familiar with this syntax, it's called destructuring. And it's kind of like this, const state stuff equals use state, and then state value, equals state stuff at 0, and update state value is state stuff at 1. Okay, so this is just shorter syntax for those 3 lines. Okay, so the first element of the array that's returned, we can call it whatever we want. We're calling it messages, and then the second one we call it whatever we want. We're going to call it set messages. So when we want to update our messages, anywhere else we just call set messages with the messages we want to update. And when we do that, React is going to say, oh, okay, let me rerun your function to get the new JSX that I should be rendering. And at that point, React, when you come here and say, okay, use state again, it's going to say, oh, messages is new this time. So I'm going to give you that what messages is now. And then you can go off and render your list of messages. The same applies to username. Here we're passing it a function, and it's going to call that function. And whatever that function returns is what the initial value of that state should be. The reason that we're doing that is for an optimization, so we don't read local storage every time this our React component is called. We just do that the first time when the state is getting its default value. So yeah, we get the username, set username, and then down here where we're calling, or yeah, when we handle the username change, we can set username. Okay, so then we have this, actually here, let's look at this one first. This geoposition thing. So use geoposition is what's called a custom hook. So that's not coming from React. React doesn't ship a use geoposition hook. This is coming from a package on NPM called the platform, which is the best, where it allows us to get the geoposition. And it handles all of that management of requesting the position from the user and giving it to us, giving us that position object when the user is giving us permission. This actually has some implications with suspense, which I don't have time to talk about. And in fact, I'm already 2 minutes over. So I'm going to wrap things up here in a little bit. But what's really cool about this is because this is all just functions, it's really quite easy to extract and share, handle that logic reusability by taking the stuff that really matters and extracting it into other functions. So here's this use sticky scroll container. And if we go to this function, it's actually just in our file. And all this is doing is using other hooks inside of it. So useEffect allows you to do something that's a side effect after your render is run. There's some optimizations you can make here and things. The cleanup, so your component will unmount, or your component did update, you need to unsubscribe, whatever that is going to happen. That is co-located with where you set up the subscriptions in the first place. So it's whatever you return from this useEffect is going to be the cleanup. And so it all travels together. They're no longer separated across different life cycles. You say all of the concerns are in this one thing, and now I can really easily put that in a function and then use that in other components. So there's no nesting of components. There's no weird like render prop APIs or higher order components. All of that it kind of goes away because we're just using regular functions to make this work. I'll show you one last thing and then we'll wrap up. So the Firebase, the way this is working is after our component has rendered, React is going to run this callback. And it's going to, this callback is going to say, hey Firebase, I want to subscribe to you for this latitude and longitude. And whenever messages come in, I want to call this set messages with those messages. And when this component is all done, or when we're unmounting, I want you to run this unsubscribe method for me. So we don't have to set that as some instance property and call that later or whatever, and the component will unmount. It's all happening right in the same effect. So if I wanted to share this to another component, I extract this to a function, and then I just use that function in that other component. I don't have to find all the other places where this code is being used. One other thing that's really, really awesome about this is React has built in the capability of determining or of allowing you to say when you want this effects to be rerun. So I want to resubscribe I want to unsubscribe and then resubscribe anytime the latitude and longitude change, and not on every single re-render, not only once it's rendered, like only one time, but when these two things change. And so the second argument is an array of values that React will check every single render and say, did those change? If they did, then I'll rerun this after running that cleanup function. Okay, so that's all that I have time for to show you. So let me just wrap up with the end and then the very end. So I've got some resources for you if you want to learn more about this stuff. So there's, and my slides, or sorry, like this whole project is on GitHub. I have a link to that at the very end, so you don't have to like hurriedly type these out. But I've got like a half-hour video on hooks and suspense on Egghead. Not a single video, it's a series of videos. It's a playlist and it's actually totally free, so you can go watch that. And we didn't get to talk about concurrent Reacts, but it has a lot of interesting implications with hooks. In fact, the use geolocation hook here at the top, wherever that went, yeah, geoposition. That one is leveraging the suspense feature. So that would also be good for you to learn about. And with that, just want to say thank you. I didn't actually, here, let me get you the URL. I thought I had it in here. GG, there we go. So that's the URL for the repo. Feel free to come and chat with me after. I'm not going to be able to stay the whole day, so if you want to chat, I'll just be out in the hall and we can chat. And yeah, thank you very much.
All right, good times. Okay, finish that. And fire that back on. Okay, one more video and then I'm gonna get stuck into the Alright, good times. Let's write some code. useState greeting. Alright, yeah. Tooks. Rights of application will need you to hold state. Button is clicked or increment function will be called and update the count by set count. When we call set count, it's going to tell render does entire counter function is read. This exercise we have name and it'll get to type. Fill out the greeting component so that it manages the state of the name and shows the greeting name is changed. So we're going to create a control. Already have a hand change. Delete this variable. Declaration. So we're going to change this to state. So let's do that first. So we're going to destructure like in the video. Our state value is going to be name. We're going to set the name. State. I'm going to use React's useState. And then I'm going to give it an empty string. Just go. Set the value to name, which is cool. So if I set the initial value to Bob, then it should be here. But it won't let me type anything, so I need to make it a controlled component, which means on this handle change function to update the state value. So whenever this changes, I'm going to set the name to event target value. I gotta even spelled it right this time. And I'm gonna swap that back to an empty string. And now my name should type. Let's go. One thing to note is you could have this as an empty function, but I think browser is going to freak out. That's going to freak out because you're changing it. At the moment, this component is uncontrolled because it has undefined in here, so it holds no value. And then if I try and change this, yeah, it's going to tell me that it's changing from uncontrolled to be controlled. So that's because this is an undefined value in here. Whereas if we set it with an empty string, then it's controlled from the beginning. So should be good. Cool. We're done. Extra credit. Accept an initial name. Greeting accept a initial name and initialize the name state to that value. Cool. So here our application is calling the greeting component. I'm gonna call it initial name. So let's say initial name. Let's Bob again. This is accepting props. I'm just going to destructure this, similar to what we're doing here, and I'm just going to destructure for the initial name. I'm going to set the default value to the initial name. And break everything. It's because it's an object. That's why. There we go. So we're going to start with Bob. Yeah, that's freaking out from the last time. But I should now be able to choose this. Which is cool. Notice if I go empty, then it actually just goes to an empty string. It doesn't return to Bob. It would only be refresh. It would remount, and then it would put to the initial value. Good times. Alright, pretty straightforward so far. Cheeky and say I learned how to spell message. It's effective. That's great. Alright, gonna quickly watch this video on useEffect now that we've done state. Should be like a so. And I've been muted the entire time. Alright, so we're going to use useEffect this time instead of useState. Apparently there's loads of extra credits, so there should be a decent bit of coding. useEffect is a built-in hook that allows you to run after it runs. Excuse me. Oh man. Bang. Accepts a callback which React will call after the job is exercise. We're going to enhance the greeting. Ah, cool. We're into get out of here, number one. Let's check out number two. We're going to enhance the greeting component to get its initial state value from local storage. That's cool. And keep local storage updated as the name is updated. State initialization. Let's see, it's custom flexible. It's cool. Alright, let's see what we need to do. Initialize the state to the value storage. Initialize the state to the value. Ah, nice. So he's already provided function call, which is cool. Initial name. It's really safe. It's in the name. Let's go. So we have initial name being passed through here, which is going to default to an empty string. Need to pass anything instead of the initial name. I mean, I could just copy paste this. Super late. Excuse me. I think I can actually just abstract this a little bit. Save function. Okay. I could spell function correctly. It's further. Wait. And it's actually just gonna. This is a little bit unnecessary. Bit of an unnecessary abstraction, but I'm just gonna keep it. And especially because I'm naming it. Yeah, I'm just gonna skip this. Okay. Let's forget everything I said over the last 5 minutes. And then I'm just going to grab this. So if I set the initial name to again, it should come through because nothing exists in local storage. So you should see that as our default value. It is a control component because we're handling change and we're setting the name based on the value. I should be able to change this to my name, which is cool. And anytime we update this, we want to set local storage. So let's set local storage, and then what the set name. Cool. Let's not do it. So we're going to do a useEffect instead. So we're going to call a function here. We have dependencies. I'm going to say this function. Say, still have that on pasted. Nice. So, anytime name changes, we're going to rerun this function. We're just going to set name. Let's go. So now if I save that, let's bring this back in. I'm going to pass an initial name of Bob. Can I read the ID? Tripping. Alright, so it's going to start with Bob, and the reason it's done so is because it has set the previous item. So, if I bring up the dev tools to application storage, come in. We can see name's been set to Bob. I delete this, it's going to leave it empty. Interestingly, because it's left it empty, I make this Steve. Refresh it. It's gonna break again. What? Liking that. Missing something. Size the state. But okay, this Steve. Get rid of this, and then I'll go down to name. The name is set to Steve. So if I delete that, it's now going to be empty, which hopefully this is going to break. Cool. That would actually show. So annoying. Start with it. See if it makes sense. Because that is empty, this will evaluate to false, so it'll fall back to the initial name, Steve again. Oh man. Does that need to be a function? Okay. That's fine. Okay, so the name is Steve. If I delete this, nothing's going to be here, and because this is now empty, this will evaluate to false, and then we'll get the initial name. Crash the get. Yeah, I didn't go in. Anyway, this is working. So actually just put that back. Check this. The name's Andrew. Go to space. You can see it update. And my name. Just go. Extra credit, lazy state. So, yeah, I actually did this to try and fix the console error. So this will now only be run the yeah, because it's a function that's gonna be run once, which is going to return either this or this. React use the initialization. Dependencies. Oh, I think I've done jump type. Yeah, so whenever name changes. So this will only ever be run first time. Well, it'll be run on out. Let's see. Cool. See, it was only fired once. get that horrible. So it only fires once. I change it. Nothing will happen. I remove this. Fire every time the component renders. State is updating here, the component renders and it fires every time. So the third option, which is the one I had, is we specify that we want this to update this value. Let's just go. This part about hooks is if you think inside the a custom hook local storage state. Just gonna see. Reusability of all this logic. So custom usability. So let's return none. Just gonna put something I don't know yet. Use local storage state. So something equals null. Let's get rid of this. So let's move this in. It says move everything in. Let's just shunt everything. Do I want to return here? My gut tells me I want to return the name and the handle change function. And if I destructure that, I'll give it. Let's see. Change. I can actually say set name here. As well. I'm going to call this and I'm going to pass the initial name in here, which can be our fallback value. Love it. This is going to be I'll keep system just to easier to follow. So we're going to pass the initial name through, which keeps that working. Which means that should disappear. And on change to say set name. This is going to execute. I'm going to pass in an initial name. We're gonna hold the state inside this hook, which is gonna execute our function, check local storage. If that doesn't exist, then it's gonna return the actual name that's passed into it. For handle change function, this shouldn't change because this will execute this, which is this, which is this. We'll pass the event in, set the name, which is stored in to whatever we've set it to in here. Because this name value has changed, update local storage, whatever value we pass in here. Probably one. The problem with this is if you used it on multiple instances, it would update this name. So if we use this in 3 different places, and they all use set name, it would change this name in local storage. Probably once pass. Second value. Yeah. Let's go. Just going to put that as a default. I actually don't want to enforce it. It's absolutely not. What's this? And we're going to replace this. That's the initial name. Let's pass this first because I think it. Oh man, too tight. Gonna get the storage value first, and then initial name. I'm gonna pass the initial name. The reason we're doing that is because if I was to use it, see another. It'll do the exact same functionality, but it'll store it on another name instead. So if I just had this, it would only ever update name. The errors are making me sad. Just go. Passing soon. So setting it as undefined. What's that? Is it because I didn't save it? Cool. So if I refresh this now, it will break because of some weird error. Let's come back in to application. Just using our initial name here. Let's try and walk through what happened here. This greeting component mounted. This line executes. Our custom hook will execute. Pass in a string of name and our initial name is going to be set to Steve, because we didn't pass one through. Let's do this. Gary. Oh man, this error. What? Nothing. It's really annoying. It's freaking. So the hooks is warning me that if this value updates. This will run again. Should be okay because this should never change. This does not. Take a look. Right. It's frustrating. Okay, so this is Gary because we're actually pushing in the initial name here. This fallback will be ignored. I'm going to execute this custom hook. I'm just going to pass in a string of name and Gary. I'm going to use the local state. In here we're going to initialize our state. We're going to try to retrieve something. Nothing existed previously. Just going to use Gary. The name value is updated, so we're going to set it to default value. useEffect hook runs once on mount and then anytime dependency arrays dictate. So that will run and it will set it to Gary and push it into school. Change this back to Steve. This on change is going to fire. It's going to set the name. It's going to fire this function, which is going to be our handle change from here. It's going to pass the event in here. It's going to set the name. Set the name to yeah, which is going to fire our effect, which is going to set the item. And then we have it saved in local storage. Nice. Let's just keep the name consistent. The reason I prefer that is because it reads a little bit nicer. Just reading that in the code. Suppose to come in and read this. Anyway. Okay, take your custom hook and make it generic enough to support any data type. Go wild with this. The only real change you would have to make here. Change comes in. Do it with a number. Start small. Here, reuse this. Age. Set age. I'm going to use the same thing here. Pass it through as age. I'm actually going to set this to a default value of an empty string. Actually pass a default value. Okay. Love it. Oh, so we've got an uncontrolled. It's just say an ID of age. Can I control it? Nope. If I clicked something in. Okay, this is a number. 734. Nothing will actually happen just now because this is an uncontrolled input. Actually, happening here. State is being held in this input. So, first of all, let's make this controlled. So set the value to age. Say change. Set age. We are gonna have to it's fine. Let's actually just keep it. So does it work? No. Let's find out. Yeah, should not be. Undefined words. I actually want to pass type number through, so I want to see if it's from last time. Yeah, okay. Because we've explicitly declared it as under. Go. Let's go to application. You can see age, nothing's in here because we're not actually passing any values. Obviously, it's gonna do. This is null. Problem is, let me try and explain more. So I could say event.target value. It's falsy. Suppose if it's truthy. Set it. But the problem is if I go from to Steve as an example, I can go to S. I save. Let's come back. Save. So we're back to Gary. Right. If I start deleting, I go to G, and it won't let me delete that last letter. Because if I went to delete the last letter, event.target.value would be an empty string, so it would evaluate to falsy. This would never. So you can say does not equal. I'll say if it's not null, find. Set the name. So an empty string shouldn't. Sure I've saved. I should be able to. Can I? Let's see. I cannot. I thought I could. this works for now. Okay, so let's delete this. Let's go back. Need to get better at saving. Ah, she brought beer. Saint. Okay, so let's always set this up. So we'll always set this. And I only to set local storage if name does not equal. Just get rid of this. Cool. So now we don't have age here. We have name, but we don't have age because age defaults to undefined, which is going to come into our hook. useEffect is going to be run once on mount. I'm going to need to rename these because name doesn't fit anymore. Age does not equal null or undefined. Because it is undefined, this will never run. Set. Say, let's go super generic value. Name. So does that mean? This CoVS code can pick up. Is this? No. Okay, so let's pass in a number here. I think it will automatically support any data type. We need to serialize objects to strings, yeah. So it will automatically convert the that I pass through. This is actually a string. Which I'm pretty sure this number can handle it. God, I'm so. Am I? 34 this year. Getting a hole. Alright, so let's return that. That seems fine. Send it up. Set hobbies. Let's use this hook again. I'm gonna say this is hobbies. This is gonna default to an empty object. Go. Back in the game. It's going to default to an empty object. Hobbies is going to be set as an object, so that's why it's saying we need to serialize. JSON stringify. I'll be 20 years into the industry and I'm still Googled this every time I need. So there's a couple of ways we could do this. Where's the best place to serialize? So let's say serialize. Let's say serialize. So this will take whatevs. I'm gonna use JSON.stringify. Put it on the going to return that. And then while I'm just going to create a function to parse the value. And turn JSON.parse. Don't know. Let's find out. Just gonna create a button here because I'm gonna do that. Let's move that side of the. Let's fill this out a little. Dev. So the default value to please page. Say age. Let's go back to this. And I'm convinced this exercise is sad. Alright, let's keep working. Ah, there we go. I'm just going to make these divs so they are display block. This is this will be a pain in this because an empty object evaluates to true. So this will always show. It's going to be a I'm just going to parse it. So I'm going to parse. What's that again? Cool. So whenever I click this button, it's going to set hobbies. Actually. Let's create a function here. Click. Set these. This is not the best for an object. Say hobby 1. Cycling. This is a terrible use of an object, but it's just for anything. Swimming. It's also dancing. Cool. So I have an object of hobbies, and I'm going to set that by that button. This will freak out, and it will try to parse object of hobby. So, where are we? I'm going to create the hobbies, which is an object. Application. It's going to say object object. I'm going to set our hobbies to be hobbies. Just going to use our hook. Our initial value is going to be an empty object. It shouldn't set it because I think an empty object counts in this equation. Let's find out. Let's delete this. And oh, objects are not valid as a child. Alright, this one's mad. Because we've defined this function, but we're not actually calling it. So, set the item here. Value doesn't equal null. Let's see. Serialized value. Let's call that. Let's pass the value through. Let's replace that with that. Ah, but I need my button to set it. Cool. Errors. Nice. So there's an empty object here. So the reason that wasn't working before is because this is always if I just put hobbies, an empty object always evaluates to true, so it's going to try and parse empty object. It's going to freak out because local storage hasn't been set, and it's going to probably do a little bit more in here to make sure that doesn't happen. But a quick workaround is to convert the hobbies object into an array. It's going to check how many elements are in there. Because it's an empty object, it doesn't have any properties, so this will return. So it'll say, please tell me. It should. JSON string. Parse it. I'm actually going to return a parsed value. So I'm going to say value. Ah, I'm an idiot. It's because it's actually trying to write JSON up. That was broken. Forgot. JSX. I'm actually just going to say just give me the it's because hopefully it will be parsed. Let's go into storage. Let's delete this. Unexpected G. Oh, hey Marco. Is it Marco or Marco? Marcos. Sorry about that. I am just about to finish this exercise. Maybe you can help me find out where I'm going. Okay, let's clear this and go to my local storage. Nothing's here and it's freaking out because it's an unexpected G. So I have hobbies. I'm just going to delete an empty object. Be there, so it should fall back to the initial value. Should be it. A useEffect should trigger. Just gonna remove this for now. I think it's causing some issues. So whenever the value changes, serialize it. JSON.stringify. And then I want to set item to hobbies, which is passed in as the storage value. use the serialized value. Zero JSON parts. Is it because it's trying to serialize falsy value? What's this? Serial. Set it. This is truthy. Set the value. On the age, you mean? I don't think I can set this to null. I think React freaks out. Set a number to null. It's a control. Let's hold up. Let's just dial this back. Got name. Let's go back to name. There's a weird bug on the exercise. It's still freaking. Just bring this right back. Stop calling that. Let's just return this. That's back on at least. Let's just make sure that's saving. So we have name here. Marcos. So let's re-add the age. How old are you, Marcos? Spring chicken. Nice. So 25. Should probably save that. And then let's uncomment this. Okay, so they're both working fine. So I just need the object to work. Why? Oh, I just wanted it for my... So... set hobbies here. And this is going to be object. Oh, it's to serialize this before I save it to local storage. Let's see if this works. Set a debugger here. In. Oh. triggering name. Triggering for age. Oh, what about, I thought you'd mistyped Y. I'm 34. I wish I was still 20. 25. And then once more, it should be an empty object, which is cool. So that should have serialized an empty. So my check for truthy doesn't really work here. So I should be able to save that as an object string, or a JSON string. To application, age, name, hobbies as an object. Oh, as my bot went a little bit zealous. Sorry for deleting messages. No. Don't worry about it. My bot is. He means well, but he's a little bit overzealous. Okay, so that gives me an object. So I actually just want to rent. Let's just get rid of this completely. So this will fail, right? Because it's currently a JSON string, so we need to parse the value. So I parse it. Unexpected token. It's because it's trying to parse undefined. Yeah, that's not a bad show. The thing is, it's an object, right? Ah, it's because, yeah, it's because I never actually passed the serialized value. So, let's just blitz that. Let's come back in here. It was working for age. Like if I take hobbies out. And if I take this out and turn it to value. This works, right? So it's going to say please type your age, and then I'm going to put this in and it's going to tell me I'm 25 in your case. Or Gary. Age is Gary. 72. It's about the age of all Garys. So this is working, right? I'm fine with that. And then if I go back to here, I'll fix this later so it doesn't actually update local storage if it's a C value. So whenever I can JSON pops, see if I'm missing something silly. So, yeah, try serializing. So I've got a serialized value. So whenever the value changes, we're going to run this effect. And the serialized value is going to grab this, right? If I add a debugger here, serialize the comments. So I should need this and this at the moment. I'm confused. Of interest. Karate. Definitely breaking for age on the first render. I don't think that's true, but I will be. Oh, let me get rid of this. I've got value here. I'm going to comment out hobbies, and so at the moment we have name, age. I see. Okay, and that's what you're saying is breaking. Yeah. Nice one. Thank you. So let's serialize it. Didn't freak. That freaked. Oh, of course, because the... Seems to be able to handle it, right? And then if I put an age in here, then it's just going to give me that as a string. And then it's just going to go to an empty string here. So I think the pair of them are fine. I think the problem is my hobby. Do I need a string? Yeah, so stringify it instead of parsing it. Yeah, cool. Why is that? It parses adjacent string. I have no idea why that doesn't work. So let's actually bring this out then, and stringify. And then let's actually just pass this through. And I could tidy this up a little bit, but let's just do. Let's just return the string. Nice, we've got the string here. The name is giving me the string of. I think that's just okay there. Yeah, that's fine. Just get out. Maybe I'll just keep that bit of here. If I was creating a custom hook, should the hook be responsible for parsing? It should be responsible for serial. Should it be responsible turning parsed value? My gut tells me it. It's gonna freak out because that doesn't exist. Just gonna. Yeah, they definitely should. So that should handle the button click. Just got some default here. And then I want to set hobbies with my object. Should be fine. Hobbies is going to come into here. Yeah, this function. Just my change. Because this is. That's why. Because it's looking for event target value. Let's just cheat a little. Splits local storage. Yeah, this is the first exercise where this has happened, to be honest. I'm not entirely convinced that it's not my fault, so I think a message in the Discord afterwards and fine. Alright, so at least that's setting up, it's undefined. Okay, so let's try and tidy it up. Is that freaking out? Does this work? First vendor string of it. That is a very good call. Yeah. Of interest. It's gonna make it worse. Yeah. And that's going to try and parse undefined. So now if that's undefined, let's see. So use JSX. My brain is not working here. So I have the hobbies. We're going to default to undefined here. Hook is going to fire. The initial value. Nothing exists here. Ah, so it's actually going to set it to. It's annoying. Okay. Jason. That. Let's make sure it's here. What? Is it stringified? This will always be true. Says. Object with keys to render children. There's nothing in here. This won't run. It'll put initial value, which is a stringified version of this object. Serial. I shouldn't need to do that because the serialize should happen here. I should just be able to pass an object. Because by the turn, yeah, because I'm passing in this object, which will set this. So, turn this. I've put myself in knots here. Store this in states. What's this? As if something does exist there. Try and grab. Shouldn't need to. Just take this out. This will always be truthy, so there's no something else. Evan, if I just say name. So we're having this initial. Nothing will exist here. So we'll fall back to the initial value in object. Value at this point is just to update state. Skip by these. This isn't used. We come into effect. Storage value never changes. Serialized value should stringify. Oh man, this is killing me. Shouldn't need this. This is what I fixed it earlier. Is it stringify? Why is my JSON parse not working? This is just the default. So here we have an object, which is what we would expect. So because it's trying to let's take this off just now. Let's get this. At this point in time, it's an object and it's been serialized. Set the item. Again, here, hobbies should be a serialized JSON string. Correct. Cool. I go back to sources. JSON.stringify. Oh, that should be. Oh. Stringify works. Oh shit, really? React 17. Yeah, I wonder if that's what it is. Yeah, it's using React 17. That's what's causing it. Yeah, it's just making it so much more difficult to actually debug what's going on. It's because I need to page back every time. There we go. Right. So hobbies should be. Then if I look at application, go. Now see this. Why does stringify work? Yeah, but it's using stringify. Should be parsing it. We should be serializing the value here. And then I should be returning a just value. Which I should just be able to do this here. I'm just gonna use the bathroom. Maybe 2 seconds. Okay. Where were we? Right, let's get this to work. I'm gonna take this out. Just gonna take this out as well. Let's get rid of this. Clear storage. Use the debug. Yeah, and I think that's freaking out because I tried to serial. Yeah, there we go. Cool. So can I parse this value? No. Unexpected token O. Greeting 215. Is it because of interest? If I do hobbies dot hobby, shouldn't make a difference, right? Expected token new. If I grab this and I'm going to set this, this doesn't matter, and I'm actually just going to set this to a string. Man, something is buggy. I've never had this much trouble with local storage. That value is just an object. I'm serializing the value. So if I set my debugger here, let's get rid of this one. This is empty. Let's see if refreshing works. I doubt it. This is returning value. I think that's the problem. I think I actually want to lift this out. This would render, which means serialized value. Now, Yeah, it's breaking on this, on the hobbies. I think the problem is it's storing it as an object here, so it's actually returning this value. So hobbies is the value. The initial value is an object, which is stored in value, because this doesn't exist. And it's then returning this value, which hasn't been serialized. And then it's trying to parse it. I think that's the problem. So if this value updates, this will re-render. Serialize this value, which this exists in scope now. So if I return the serialized value, I'm just going to take this out for just now. I should have finished by now, but I really want to get this working. I'm going to give it till past, and then if it's not working, I'm going to try again on Tuesday, and hopefully the hooks thing has sorted itself out, because having to bounce between these routes is pretty frustrating. It also gives me time to do some reading and work out what the hell is going wrong. This value will be set to initial. This initial value is an object, and then I'm returning serialized value. Right, so if I run a debugger here, just before that initial return, make sure this is all empty. Should have finished the debug first. Here we go. Right, so serialized value here, that looks correct. That looks like a serialized string. And that will be set again in hobbies. This needs to finish rendering and then this will run, which is why that doesn't appear in storage just now. I'm returning this as a serialized string now. Is it because on the, is that what you were saying earlier, on the first render? Nah, it shouldn't be, because I'm passing this in as an argument. Just setting the value to this, and I'm serializing it. This has all been done in a very strange fashion. Yeah, neither do I. I feel like I'm going round in circles because I'm tired and I'm just trying to quickly like throw together a solution rather than actually thinking it through. So I think that's why I'm gonna give it 10 more minutes and see what happens. Let's take an object in and serialize it. Right. Just pass this through. Right, so at the moment all I'm doing is passing through an object, which I'm serializing, setting as the default value, setting local state, and then returning that value. And if this doesn't work, then I'm really screwed. Let's finish the debugger. This is going to be giving me all this nonsense. So frustrating. don't know. I don't know why that's not parsing that. I feel like I'm missing something really trivial. Yeah, sorry. What am I trying to do? I am trying to get my code to work. So I'm on the exercise 2. I've got my custom hook to work here. I've got all of these working, and I was on the final credit flexible local storage hook. So local storage hook was initially set to use a string, which I got working. I then changed it so it could either be a string or a number that was passed in. That was also working. And now I'm trying to do it with an object, and it's not working. So I have this custom hook at the moment. Just make sure this is clear. This is clear. Come back in. Right. Step through this. So here, yeah, let's just go. I have a default value here of an object. That's coming into this use local storage state function. The initial value is this. Can I check that from here? I then have state. And that state is going to be a serialized version, which is just using json.stringify value. So it's going to serialize my object, store that as value. I'm then going to set that value because my effect is going to run. And it will set that serialized object in local storage. And then it will return that value in hobbies. I then have a pre-block here. And I want to parse the serialized hobbies. So let's finish the debugger. And the error I'm currently getting is an unexpected token U in JSON at position O. And it's failing on the parse, and I don't understand why it's failing on the parse. Because if we're in the debugger here, hobbies is a serialized object. Yeah, so why can't that parse that? JSON.parse the JSON. Parse JSON string pre. There's a pre tag, which is what I'm doing. JSON.stringify. Oh, what is this? Oh, the reviver. Throw a syntax error if the string to parse is not valid JSON. So is it throwing a syntax error? Local storage is currently being set useEffect. Ah, sorry. Symbols here for the bot. I'll have that fixed for the next time I stream. He's drunk with authority. Hey, yeah, don't worry about him. That's. I just when I was setting it up in Streamlabs, I just turned everything on, thinking it would have reasonable defaults. If a console log, does it show the value? I mean, I can. The debugger should give me this, right? Debugger's showing to me that's a serialized string. JSON.parse, serialized string. That's why you most probably be getting the JSON at 0 issue. So this is a syntax error, right? Yeah, which is what this is saying. It'll throw a syntax error if the string to parse is not valid JSON. Because it is not being set. Because what is not being set, sorry? Local storage is not being set. Is it not being set in the effect? If I log it here, in the effect, just close these. There's nothing in here, so I should be okay. useEffect, link, get item. Hold on. Where's this cloud box? Okay, I've turned him. Let me just go to my Twitch. Alright. Let's see if that works. Alright, I've kicked the bot, so hopefully that should stop you being kicked. Or being blocked, I should say. So what were you saying before? What I would do most probably use useEffect, delete the get item from storage. useEffect or anywhere else, try to local storage.get item. Yeah, so originally it was done in here, right? So originally I had this state value just to make sure that it's setting it properly. But then I should be able to check that here, which is not appearing. But let's do what you're saying, right? So first thing I want a function here. I'm going to say window local storage get item of the storage value. Let's just remove this from, actually this can be a fallback. Which part is nonsense? The bug itself, or my attempt to fix it? Or the bot for deleting your links? Alright. Yeah, I know. It's killing me. Sorry, I was just deleting all of the CloudBot permissions there. So we can actually have a conversation. Nothing's in this useEffect, right? So here I have this useState. Just going to take a function and it's going to check for this. If it doesn't, it's going to serialize the initial value. So let's just make sure, let's remove this. Then let's add a debugger here. It's fine. Okay, so here we have the debugger, right? Storage value is hobbies and the initial value is an object. Can I hide this? There we go. The initial values are object and we have the storage value set to hobbies. That's going to come in here and it's going to use the state and the value is this serialized string. So if I hover this, this is now a serialized object and that's the dispatch. So this is what I want, right? And that's because nothing exists in local storage. So nothing exists. So this executes, nothing's there. So it's going to use this serialized value. Your question was, we need to check and make sure that it's actually setting in local storage, which should be in this effect, right? So if I step through this, should step into the useEffect. The value is the serialized string. This should set the value. And if I now check my local storage, I need one more step because it's quite slow, synchronous. Hobbies is under. What is changing that to undefined? It's because this never gets updated. That should still not be. Should still be. Just gonna step through it. Just gonna run the useEffect. Value here is correct. It's just a function. Still correct. Undefined. What? What? At a breakpoint before the return. Yeah, I suppose. Ah, right. I see what you mean. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I actually thought it was there. Sorry. Okay. Just put that back. Step. Let's come back in here. In the debugger. Cool. So serialized string. Step through. This is correct. This is what I want. Still what I want. Before the return of the Ah, so you want, okay, okay. Got nothing. So let's clear this. Let's go in here. So hobbies is currently correct. That's what we should want, right? Because we want to parse hobbies. That's a JSON string. That is valid syntax. If I step through, it's going to return this. Seems fine. I'm just going to skip it. I'm just going to skip through it. Didn't break it parsing. No, it's breaking at this. Don't understand what. Ah, thank you for the follow, Simple Sphere. Watch me trod through this for another 20 minutes. Right, I can get this. My fragile ego won't allow me to stop until I get this. Yeah, so Stringify works, right? We established that. Stringify works. Why does parse not work? Why does parse... The version you'll be returning from the custom... will it? Because I'm going to set it. Ah, yeah, because it's serial. Yeah, true. Cool. That's now stored in here. And that part's fine. On the custom hook to return the parsed version. The problem is this is going to return, if I retrieve this from local storage, there's two different values here, right? One is an object being passed in as an initial value, if I just had this. But if I retrieve it from here, it's going to be serialized. Yeah. Keep it serialized? So we'll always serialize the initial value. Okay. That's fine, and that's why this is working just now, right? Because it's just returning a serialized version of it. And then before I return it from the hook, parse it. So if I do what? Pass it through here? Oh. Enable it. Is that freaking parse values? I think that's just freaking out from. But that's gonna freak, right? Because yeah, now this is an object. So now if I do JSON stringify, that gives me that. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. I like that. Awesome. Thank you. Because then it should be responsible. So it's always going to parse it. Now you stringify it just to display it, yeah. Yeah. That is cool. So I should really add these back in one at a time, but it's just uncomment everything and watch it blow up. What's going on? So just going to remove this debugger. Let's find out. Certainly doesn't like something, so I'm guessing it's... let's take out number for just now. Oh, it's probably not going to help. Let's take that out for just now, and let's take the age out. Excuse me. Yeah. So it's gonna freak on undefined. going to lift this out. Local value is going to try and get this. If a local value exists, serialize it. I suppose I could just do it. Is truthy going to be enough? I don't want to return that. Alright. Can I just do that? The answer to pretty much every question tonight has been no. This works until I try to. Oh no, that's fine, that's fine. Right, hold on. I just try if value doesn't equal define, it's the value. Otherwise, toss the value. Yeah, okay. That's a good idea. Let's just return this to where it was. Can I... Yeah, I'll make it look pretty. That could be, I think that'll be next time. I'll be happy if this is just working for now. Okay, so name is set. Let's see if age goes up. And then let's return this. That's cool. My name is Barbachop. Oh no, the name isn't working. Yeah, it's fine. Oh god, this is getting messy. Yeah, cool. It went wrong because it's not been serialized. So if I blitz everything and then come back. Here we have our defaults, and then my name is Barbachop. I'm 104 years old, and I don't do karate, but I do cycling, swimming, and salsa dancing. Oh, okay, that is ugly as hell, but it's working. Make it work. Make it pretty. Make it fast. I'll do the other two on Tuesday. I've written worse code. Okay, I am way over time, so I'm going to finish up there. But thank you very much for your help. Yeah, that was a lot of fun actually. I'm a little bit surprised how much trouble that actually gave me, but hopefully with some fresh eyes I'll be able to fix that up. Oh, relief. Yeah, rough is a word, but I suppose I made it there in the end. Cool, right, I'm gonna get myself a beer and celebrate. Thank you, and I'll see you on Tuesday if you're around.